Story 1. As an electrician, the misconception that it is not a skilled profession is frustrating. It requires rigorous training and adherence to safety standards. Story 2. Vegetable farmer. We receive numerous applicants wanting to connect with the soil, yet many have never touched a shovel before. Many people do not seem to understand that farming involves manual labor, long hours, and daily hardships. Ultimately, we are struggling to make ends meet. Story 3. As a software developer, I am tired of hearing that we are all just nerdy individuals who code in dark rooms all day. It is actually a highly collaborative field. Story 4. Fire sprinkler designer here. Fire sprinkler water is not clean and clear like the movies depict. That water has likely been in those pipes for decades and is filled with corrosion and cutting oil. As soon as a sprinkler goes off, you are getting doused with black, contaminated water. Story 5. I am a software engineer. We cannot simply hack into anything, and we cannot fix your printer. We are not technical support. We operate in a world of code, not hardware. Story 6. That graphic design is enjoyable and we will do it at a low cost simply because we find it fulfilling. Unfortunately, I have bills to pay and often need to protect clients from making poor decisions because they believe they could create the work themselves if they just improve their drawing skills. Story 7. Technical support. We didn't start out angry. Turn it off, then turn it on again. No, we are not being lazy. That really does solve the majority of problems. And no, shutting off your monitor is not the same as shutting down your computer. When we ask if it is plugged in, please follow the cord all the way from your computer to the wall. If the computer gives you a message with an error code, write it down or take a screenshot. Describe the problem, but only include what is necessary. I do not care why you were emailing your aunt. I do care about the message that appeared when you clicked send. If I come to look at your computer, please get out of the way. I cannot fix anything if you are sitting in your chair in front of your computer. Printer problem? I would prefer to work on anything else before dealing with printer issues. Story 8. I am a longtime caregiver to my mother, who lives with dementia. For some reason, people do not consider it work, including doctors. I am on call around the clock and cannot leave for long periods. My own health has suffered significantly. The costs of geriatric care are astronomical, yet all people hear is that I am not working. Story 9. People think being a chef is glamorous due to cooking shows, but the reality involves long hours in a high-stress environment. Story 10. I am a graphic designer, and no, I cannot just create a complex project in an hour. Good design takes time and thought. Story 11. As a veterinarian, I am not in this for the money. I also do not know what is wrong with your dog or cat just by using my stethoscope. Story 12. Musician. You're lucky to be born with talent. I worked my whole life practicing every single day and invested so much money in exceptional teachers and equipment to be able to do what I do for a living. Story 13. I'm a handyman. None of the events depicted in those human mating ritual documentaries that you watch online have ever happened to me. Story 14. Men working in kindergarten are often viewed with suspicion. It can be challenging to find a male role model for young children before they reach the 5th grade, especially in Germany. Story 15. You just euthanized the dogs. Ma'am, it's an open intake facility. We place animals for adoption and collaborate with multiple rescue organizations. We do not euthanize animals for fun. We strive to find them better placements, but we recognize that we are the first line of support. We receive dogs from various sources, each with different backgrounds and medical or behavioral issues. We are addressing problems created by others. Story 16. Yes, the plane can fly itself for the most part. The flying aspect is the easy part, and we offload some of it to automation so we can focus on other tasks. It's like demonstrating cruise control in a car to someone who has never driven or seen a road before, and they say, "Oh, I'd be a great driver. It does everything itself." Story 17. I work as a therapist. Lately, I have seen many posts suggesting that we are all motivated by money. I find it sad. I do not pursue this profession for the meager income. I genuinely care about everyone I see. While I cannot solve all your problems, I am eager to help us try. As for income, I can tell you how much I have made from personal clients in the past 5 years. 0. I am a government employee. Story 18. Veterinary technicians here. We do not play with puppies and kittens all day. We are not in it for the money. In fact, we are often severely underpaid and underappreciated. We do not receive kickbacks for recommending certain foods or products. We do not hate animals. We love them deeply. It's heart-wrenching when people say, "Oh, I just love animals too much to do what you do." Your pet may not act like themselves at the veterinary clinic. I understand your pet is sweet at home, but they can be very anxious and exhibit fear aggression with us. We prescribe medication because your pet deserves an anxiety-free visit. No, we don't have X-ray vision. We rely on diagnostics. Story 19. Call center customer service agent in telecommunications. For the last 12 years, I have guided thousands of customers over the phone. It is not an easy job. I need to remember the specifications of all the new cellular devices, as well as the codes for our older DOS-based AS400 system. Above all, I have to assist people who struggle to breathe and speak at the same time. It is exhausting. By the end of the day, my body is alert and ready, but my mind feels overwhelmed. Additionally, I perform this in 2 languages. Story 20. I am a paramedic. I have witnessed some challenging experiences. I prefer not to discuss it, so please refrain from asking about the worst thing I have seen. Story 21. I'm an attorney. Many people have the misguided belief that a court case hinges on who has the better attorney. As if we are wizards, casting otherworldly spells at one another until one of us breaks and collapses. The judge murmurs a mysterious incantation, gesturing in an arcane manner, and the victor is surrounded by a mystical glow. A poor attorney can certainly undermine your case, but once you reach a level of basic competence, the facts of the case are primarily what determine victory or defeat. I can make clever arguments all day, but if you harm an innocent child to steal his Pokemon cards, my skills will not help you. Story 22. That IT can fix anything. Usually we can, but most of the time it won't justify the cost or my time. For smaller issues like printers, yes, we can help. We just have the ability to search for information online. I don't have a manual for everything in my head, but I have Google readily available. Story 23. I'm a martial arts student and instructor in Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, Muay Thai, mixed martial arts, and historical European martial arts, and we joke that there are 2 things that all men think they are good at despite a complete lack of education or experience, and they have no idea how wrong they are. They both start with the letter F. Story 24. I write or edit manuals and educational booklets. It's specific enough and vague enough that people simply acknowledge it and move on. Story 25. Teachers are brainwashing and indoctrinating our kids. I can barely get these adorable children to bring a pencil to class. I'm flattered you think I have that much power, but I can assure you I do not. Story 26. Mortgage servicing is a specialized area. Banks prefer not to initiate foreclosure if you start missing payments, as it leads to additional costs for maintaining and ultimately selling the property, often at a loss. It is more beneficial for both the bank and the homeowner to collaborate and explore options for loss mitigation. This could involve modifying your existing loan or finding a mutually agreeable way to vacate the property. Additionally, there are strict and consistent regulations and laws overseeing the process from the time you miss your first payment until the end of the default period, whatever that outcome may be. Story 27. Librarian here. We are not the ones sitting at the desk checking out books. Those are checkout clerks. To be a librarian in Canada or the United States, you need a master's degree in the field from a university accredited by the American Library Association. We typically have at least 6 years of university education and 2 degrees. In most places, we are the managers who run the operations or perform highly specialized tasks, such as managing the collection. In universities, we are tenured faculty like the professors. We do not just sit around and read, we are professionals. Story 28. I work in digital marketing, and many people do not understand the difference between marketers and web developers. I do not know how to code and cannot troubleshoot your website from a technical standpoint. I cannot build a website from scratch unless I use a service like WordPress or Wix, which you could probably do yourself. My job is to market your services to attract customers and work on your search engine optimization or manage your social media. I can create content for your website and upload it, but if your website is malfunctioning, that is not my responsibility, and I cannot assist you. Many companies create websites without hiring a web developer and are surprised when their website does not function properly. Additionally, not every marketer is a graphic designer. While I am relatively skilled in graphic design, it often requires dedicated expertise. Similarly, graphic designers are not always proficient in marketing. It is one thing to design and create content, and another to effectively promote it and attract customers. Story 29. I am a tax attorney, and contrary to popular belief, my job is not just about helping the wealthy accumulate more wealth. It involves navigating complex laws to provide proper advice. Story 30. Unemployed individuals with disabilities want to work, but they are often not given the opportunity. Then people label them as lazy and dependent. Story 31. Working in a call center requires strong communication skills and emotional resilience. It is more than just talking on the phone. Story 32. I work in retail, and the misconception that it is easy or a fallback job is frustrating. It requires serious multitasking and customer service skills. Story 33. I am a barista, and no, it is not just pushing a button on a coffee machine. There is a lot of skill involved in making great coffee. Story 34. I understand the anger over the pharmaceutical industry and price gouging, but the general distrust of human research that persists today is unfortunate. I'm not referring to the distrust from populations who have been harmed in the past, but rather to people who have the misconception that research is a scam or that results are manipulated for profit. An example of this would be when Neuralink was in the news a month ago. There were numerous widely supported comments suggesting that the volunteer was paid off by Elon Musk. I have my concerns about Neuralink as well, but participants in device and drug studies are not compensated beyond travel and lodging reimbursement. The effort that goes into ensuring patient safety and the accuracy of data in research is substantial, so it is regrettable that some people distrust it so much. However, price gouging definitely contributes to this distrust, as do historical events like the Tuskegee experiment and the treatment of Henrietta Lacks and her family. I feel more sadness about this issue than fatigue. Story 35. Teacher. If I had that kind of power, I would help them understand math and encourage them to wear deodorant. Story 36. I work in logistics, and the idea that it is just about driving trucks around is incorrect. It involves critical problem solving and global coordination. Story 37. I am a support worker for adults with complex learning and physical disabilities and have been for 7 years. This role is not just about basic personal care tasks. I help my clients live fulfilling lives, ensuring they have as much independence and choice as possible. I treat them with dignity and respect, providing support when they need assistance because, unfortunately, they are unable to do everything on their own. Personal care is a minor part of my responsibilities and not the most interesting aspect of my job. Few people recognize the love, patience, acceptance, and humility that the individuals I support teach me daily. Story 38. Flight attendants do not all cheat on layovers. While there are unprofessional individuals in any industry, the majority of us work long hours, often 14-hour shifts, and have only 10 to 12 hours at the hotel between flights. We often collapse into bed, exhausted, before facing another day of work. Story 39. As a journalist, I dislike hearing that we merely chase sensational stories. Many of us are dedicated to ethical, in-depth reporting. Story 40. I am paid well because I am a doctor. However, in my region, this is not the case. Additionally, the notion that patients pay my wages is incorrect. If that were true, I would ask them for a raise whenever they start mistreating me. Story 41. I am an archaeologist, and we do not just dig up dinosaur bones. That is paleontology. Archaeology is about understanding human history through artifacts. Story 42. Their eyes are green because that is the color I thought of when I built the character. It is not that deep most of the time, Also, no, I do not want to read the first draft of the book you started when you were 12. That is such a great idea. Believe me, none of us write well at 12. And no, I will not read it for free. Story 43. Schools are not responsible for the ignorance in society. This issue lies with the media and social media, which exploit people's identities. You can be intelligent yet still believe false information because your identity and social status depend on it. Story 44. I work in cybersecurity, and no, it is not like hacking in the movies. It involves a lot of prevention, research, and responding to real threats. Story 45. Hairstylists, if anyone could cut hair, why did you all have terrible haircuts during COVID? You have to take into account head shape, hair texture, cowlicks, and variations in hair color. It's not easy, and it's really hard on your body. Story 46. People in healthcare do care about you. The vast majority of us are trying to help. My specialty is elder care, and I assist with home care, home health, hospice services, or finding the right facility. For most of us, it is not all about the money. Relax and allow us to help you. Story 47. Child Protective Services has no incentive to take your children. It is a difficult process, and we understand the trauma it can cause to families. We are there to assess safety and will only act if a child is in danger. Story 48. Those who cannot teach believe that we have 2.5 months of paid vacation, that we simply babysit children, and that we indoctrinate them. I urge everyone who holds these opinions to substitute for 1 week. I would love to see how your attitudes change after that. Story 49. Not all engineers make a significant amount of money. It widely depends on the field. When I graduated in the mid-2000s, the average starting salary for a mechanical engineer was $50,000. The average for an aerospace engineer was $53,000. The average for a computer engineer was in the high $90,000s, while the average starting salary for a chemical engineer was $104,000. Double what I was going to earn with aerospace or mechanical engineering. Story 50. For pawn shops. 1. When I reject someone's unwanted items and they say I'm trying to take advantage of them, I wonder if it was actually worth something. Wouldn't I make an offer? I can't explicitly state my thoughts on this because it may provoke a political controversy. Some people assume that those who work in pawn shops belong to a specific ethnicity, and they hold very negative opinions about this ethnicity. They feel compelled to express their views about the ethnicity they believe we all belong to in front of us. Story 51. Teacher unions are damaging education. The real issues affecting education are ineffective policies established by the state, low standards set by local school districts, and a lack of administrative follow-through. States and districts adopt textbooks and curricula. That curriculum may claim that the earth is flat or that the Civil War was simply paused. Our district permits students to make up failed courses through credit recovery and still participate in graduation. A year-long course is compressed into 6 weeks. A senior this year took 14 classes and received the same diploma as those who worked hard to pass their courses. School administrators do everything they can to avoid disciplining students because it reflects negatively on our public dashboard, which displays the number of students who are absent, truant, or suspended. As a result, students become more emboldened and misbehave even more. Story 52. As a college professor, I spend the majority of my time conducting original research and writing grants for this research. This is what my superiors evaluate me on. In my field of social science and public policy, as in many other fields, we aim for our research to contribute to making the world a better, more informed place, which can be easier on some days than others. Most days, our work goes unnoticed, except by a small group of individuals who share an interest in the same niche. People often assume that higher education is simply a lighter version of K-12 teaching because we typically have 1 to 4 classes per week, depending on our institution and position. Those of us committed to doing a good job put tremendous care into developing meaningful syllabi and mentoring students, especially graduate students pursuing careers in our field. Like many other educators, I acknowledge that there are problematic aspects of higher education, unqualified individuals in leadership positions, and claims of ideological bias. However, this does not reflect the intentions or values of the majority of professors in the field. Story 53. Firefighter here. We do not just respond to the occasional working fire or car accident. I would almost call us professional problem solvers. People call us if they cannot figure out who else to contact. Along with a considerable number of medical calls and various tasks around the station, we stay busy throughout the day. Story 54. Oh, so your job is playing with dogs all day? I mean, okay, yes, it kind of is. But I also clean a lot of poop. Occasionally, the guests try to fight each other, and I have to handle that. Story 55. Janitor or custodian? Any service job, really? No, not everybody who works these jobs is uneducated or lacks ambition. Life circumstances, such as health issues or personal matters, can affect anyone. I have never understood how someone can look down on another person working in these roles and treat them poorly. Another pet peeve is the attitude of, I don't feel like putting this item back where it belongs, or I'll just make this mess and not clean it up because it's somebody else's job, or I'm just letting them earn their paycheck. No, that's inconsiderate. To end on a positive note, as someone who has held many of these types of jobs, being polite, saying thank you, and showing respect to any service, retail, or restaurant worker, or anyone really, are simple gestures that don't require much effort and can brighten someone's day. Story 56. I work for a major news station where I create graphics. I have never made Trump appear more or less orange. Story 57. Working in search engine optimization, people often think it is just about cramming keywords into web pages. It is actually about improving user experience and providing valuable content. Story 58. There are a few points to consider. If you ask me questions, I will have the answers and can provide them to you, so you do not have to pay my boss for legal advice. That is not how it works. I am not an expert and will not pretend to be, so you can save a few dollars. Just because you ask nicely and then start yelling does not mean I will give you a pass on the money you owe. I do not have that power, and if I did, everyone in our office still needs to pay bills and eat. When you dial the wrong lawyer's office, we do not have the ability to transfer you between offices. I do not have every lawyer's number memorized. If you want the number, look it up online. It is what you are asking me to do, so you do not have to. I am not an information service or an operator. Stop acting like I am. Also, yelling at me does not make me want to look it up for you. It makes me want to end the call, so please stop. I am not being difficult when I tell you that Monday at 10 a.m. will not work for your appointment. I am not trying to lengthen your case or make your life harder. I am looking at the schedule and it will not work. I am not going to call the court and postpone someone else's hearing so the lawyer will be available to you. No, I do not set the court schedule. If your case is next month on a Tuesday, take off work, find a sitter, do whatever you need to do. I am not going to demand that we move it to any Wednesday because hearings are not held on Wednesdays, only on Tuesdays, so be available. And no, yelling at me does not make the court listen to me. Please do not worry. You are not the first person to call in distress because you are overwhelmed and frightened. I understand and am willing to listen for a bit. I am not lying to you just to charge you more money. I am genuinely listening because, as a fellow human, I understand you are hurting. No, just because I am listening to your concerns over the phone does not mean I want to change professions and be your personal therapist. I will not meet your children to see if they are handling things okay. No, I do not have every therapist on speed dial. Seriously, please look it up online. No, not all lawyers are opportunistic individuals who want to take advantage of you. I have not met many who are. You are trying to separate a life you built with someone else. It is not as easy as you think. We are not generating work for you because it is work for us, even if you do not witness us doing it. We want you to be divorced as quickly and painlessly as possible. Please stop blaming me. I just answer the phone. A good rule of thumb is that just because you are calling a place does not mean they know every other place that is similar. The nurse at your doctor's office does not know all the numbers for every other doctor's office. The secretary at your lawyer's office does not know every other lawyer's number. And yelling does not help. Story 59. Tour guide. I am here to inform you and show you around, not to watch your children for free while you relax in the back of the tour. You still have to be responsible for your own kids. Story 60. I am a high school teacher. I am really tired of hearing how easy my job is and how I get paid to have summers off. I do not. My pay is just spread out over the year. Story 61. City employee here. I don't receive special treatment from the police, and I am not aware of any government secrets. Story 62. I studied medicine and am now a general practitioner. People think that everyone in our field is wealthy, but many of us are actually burdened with debt. Story 63. I investigate welfare fraud. Personally, I am very liberal and couldn't do this job if it were punitive. In my state, we receive about 3,000 cases referred each month and typically pursue around 30 on average, which is just the top 1%. It frustrates me how there is a narrative that people are constantly scamming the system when, in reality, many are under significant stress and often do not understand complex government instructions. Story 64. Teachers do not give grades. Students earn them. All teachers do is calculate them. While I acknowledge that some teachers may assign grades based on bias, my focus is on the nature of the profession rather than on exceptions to the rule. Story 65. Personal injury and workers' compensation attorneys are often unfairly stereotyped as ambulance chasers. While some attorneys do not help dispel the stereotype, it is important to remember that most people are one injury away from losing everything. Every day, people die on the job or suffer catastrophic injuries. Insurance companies often fight at every step to avoid paying lost wages or medical care. We are the modern-day Robin Hood, but this is often misunderstood. Story 66. It frustrates me when patients ask me, as an ICU nurse, if I'm going to continue my education to become a doctor. That's not how it works. Story 67. The second anyone learns that you are an accountant, they expect you to be an incredibly friendly and engaging extrovert who is always ready with a hilarious joke. The truth is, many of us are actually quite reserved. Story 68. Those who can do, those who cannot teach. If I went into industry, I could make a difference to one company. But I chose to stay in college and teach others so that many people would make a difference at many companies. Story 69. We cut hair. It's a beauty supply store, and people often ask me when I learned to cut hair. What do beauty supplies have to do with cutting hair? We sell scissors, but we don't use them. It's not a salon. Story 70. Being a private investigator is very interesting. For about 30 seconds a day, it can be, you must have a death wish jumping out of planes. It is much safer than you think. We rely on parachutes to land spacecraft on Mars. Story 71. Being a receptionist is straightforward, and anyone can do it. Experience my job for a day and report back. The doctor's office I work at struggles when I call out sick, and I'm not the only receptionist. There is one other. Story 72. Oh, you're a chef. You must eat very well. Unfortunately, we do not. We often eat poorly because we are so tired of cooking by the time we get home. Story 73. Lawyers are often perceived as wealthy, arrogant, and untrustworthy individuals who may resort to deceitful tactics for financial gain. However, many of us are not financially affluent, and some provide services pro bono. Story 74. Tree faller, logger, or arborist here. I'm tired of people who say we're just wiping out all of the trees, ruining forests, and destroying wildlife habitats. The notion you have is simply not true. Almost every tree faller, climber, or professional in this industry cares about the environment and trees more than anyone else. Why are you cutting down this tree? It has to be at least 300 years old. You're cruel. Well, that tree has rot in the center, so it's dying. Additionally, it's a fast grower, so it's only around 70 years old. Cutting it down now will make more room for undergrowth and help the other trees grow larger. You just cut down that entire lot of trees. You're what's wrong with the world. That entire lot was elm trees infected by Dutch elm disease. They were going to die, potentially spreading the disease to unaffected trees unless we intervene. I've planted many trees and saved countless others from dying. Dealing with misinformed individuals is simply tiring. Story 75. I am a real estate investment analyst. I do not sell houses or apartments. That is the role of real estate agents. Thank you for your offer, but I cannot assist you in selling your house without a commission. However, I can recommend a reputable real estate agent who can help you at a reasonable rate. They will not do it for free, but they are trustworthy and will provide fair service. Story 76. Federal civil servant here. The government is not your enemy. It consists of thousands of normal people doing regular office jobs and living ordinary lives. They are not a malicious entity with a sinister agenda. All their jobs exist to serve the greater public interest. Sure, some police officers misuse their power and some politicians may act unethically, but those are isolated individuals, not the entire federal government. Even regarding national security, you might flinch at the idea of agencies like the National Security Agency or the Department of Homeland Security existing in monitoring activities, but you are not aware of the important functions they serve in the larger context. People hear surveillance and think, Big Brother is watching. But in reality, they are monitoring suspected terrorists and foreign spies to ensure safety. Organizations like these exist so that when a disaster occurs, you do not wonder why the government did not intervene, as the answer is often that they did, but you were not aware. Story 77. Teacher, we do it for the love of the children. No, we do it for money like everyone else who works. Story 78. Future Safety Compliance Officer. We're not here to hinder you or make your job difficult. We are focused on keeping you safe so that you can go home at the end of your shift. Story 79. I'm a 911 dispatcher. It frustrates me that people assume we are like what they see in all the cop, fire, and emergency medical services television shows or movies. Yes, some agencies may operate that way, but mine does not. Story 80. As a gardener, some people assume I know everything about plant health. I don't. I have Google, the gardening community, and the Agricultural Extension Office. Story 81. Librarian. It is quiet, and I get to read all day. Libraries are much more chaotic than one would think. Story 82. Car salesman here. There is a misconception that all of us are dishonest. I understand that there are individuals who have given us a bad name. However, I am genuinely here to help people, and I am proud to work for a dealership that does not engage in unethical practices like forcing fees on customers in order to buy a car. Story 83. I work for a charity that supports victims of sexual assault, domestic violence, and other violent crimes. I am frustrated with people, including coworkers, who say that men can't be abused or that guy deserves it because he is a man. This really gets on my nerves. Anyone can be a victim, which is why charities like mine exist. Story 84. Clergy. We sometimes use bad language, and I enjoy a glass of whiskey now and then. I have limited control over my salary. I negotiated it in my contract just like most people. I only know what the church board knows about the giving. Most of us are happily married, and I have 4 amazing children of my own. If anyone messes with children around me, there will be serious consequences. I have dear friends who are part of the LGBTQ community, and I would take a bullet for a couple of them, even before some of my congregants. Honestly, I don't always understand God either, but He is good and has remained with me even when I haven't been faithful. Story 85. I manage a game store. People often assume I must be playing games all day. It's just retail. The only difference is that I get to talk to the occasional fellow gamer. Story 86. Corporate recruiter here. Every time you apply for an open position, it's important to keep this quote in mind. It is possible to commit no mistakes and still lose. That is not weakness. That is life. With an average of 250 to 2,000 applicants per position and postings lasting only 2 to 4 weeks, I have to say no to over 99% of candidates, many of whom are well qualified. So stop taking it personally, especially if the company never reached out to you, because it's not personal. Story 87. I am a production artist in the promotional business. No, I cannot use your 200-pixel JPEG on something the size of my head. No, you cannot just send me a picture of a can and expect me to turn it into anything other than the picture of a can. I receive a surprising number of requests from people wanting me to unwrap the art from a JPEG of a can and stick it on another product, telling me to match the font on the image is an easy way to move you to the back of the line. I have over 400 fonts on my computer, and I will not buy a new one unless you tell me what it is. You will probably change your mind after we have already spent the money. Your tone-on-tone designs will not look as you expect once we print them on fabric. What you see on the screen is not what you will get unless you print on a hard surface. No, artificial intelligence is not going to take my job anytime soon because I create the templates for our products. And I am definitely not teaching any large language models how to use them. Story 88. Commercial door technician here. It's just a door, there's nothing to it, is the call of the uninformed. Before I started in the industry, I felt the same way, and I was wrong. Since I began, I have learned welding, fabrication, heavy equipment operation using a cutting torch, framing, electrical work, concrete cutting and pouring, access control, glazing, and much more. To be a good door technician, you have to be a well-rounded individual. Story 89. It's not hard to cook. However, when you have over 250 guests ordering different meals at various times throughout the day, you also need to manage inventory, food safety, and hygiene regulations, including temperature and food records, all while working effectively as part of a team. Aside from cooking, many people I speak to have no idea how much more there is to being a chef. I'm often belittled by others for being proud of my work and my reputation, as if I shouldn't take pride in what I do. Story 90. Banking, no sir, that check isn't your money just because it was made out to you. It's your money once the transaction clears and processes. Story 91. Nurses were the mean girls in high school. As I kneel on the emergency department waiting room floor in front of a homeless gentleman, removing maggots from and cleaning and bandaging his feet, and finding him new socks and shoes from our donations bin, all while he is there for an unrelated issue, I think to myself, if only I were less mean. Also, I was quite nice in high school. Story 92. Nursing is often misunderstood. As a nurse, I specialize in various subspecialties. Some of us manage critical medications, titrate infusions, and oversee ventilators and oxygen therapy. We perform complex procedures and are trained to provide care in the most extreme situations. It involves much more than basic tasks. Being referred to as just a nurse is degrading to the skills and capabilities we possess. Thanks a bunch for sticking around till the end of the video. Remember to subscribe, and until next time, stay awesome and goodbye.